Hey everyone, and welcome back to Aspire and Act. We all have these big dreams, but sometimes figuring out how to actually, make them happen can feel, well, overwhelming. So today we're diving deep into Ben's blog post, Dreams Come True, what it takes to make them a reality, which, by the way, you can find over on aspireandact.com.
It's such a good one.
Yeah, it really is. And I think what's so cool about this particular post is how Gen breaks things down into these really clear, actionable steps. Like, okay, you have a dream, now what?
He doesn't just leave you hanging.
Right. It's not just like, oh, just believe in yourself and it'll all work out. He actually gives you a framework.
Totally. And I think one of the things that stood out to me the most was how Ben emphasizes that everyone dreams. Like it's a universal human experience.
Yeah, totally. It's like we're all wired for it, right?
Right.
But then the question becomes, okay, how do we take those dreams and actually, turn them into something real?
Exactly. And Ben's really big on starting with a super clear and specific goal.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He actually uses this great analogy in the blog. He says, trying to achieve a vague goal is like wandering around the city with only a compass. You might have a general sense of direction, but you're probably going to end up lost.
Yeah, it's like just saying, I want to be successful. Okay, but what does that even mean?
Right. Success is such a, loaded word. It means different things to everyone.
For sure. And that's why Ben encourages us to get laser focused. Really ask ourselves, what does success look and feel like to me? How will I know when I've achieved it?
I think that's such a great point. Even for me, just the act of writing down specific details about my goal helps me to visualize it more clearly.
Oh, totally. And once you have that clear vision, that's when you can start creating a solid plan of action.
Exactly. And this is where it starts to get really exciting because, a plan is what takes us from dreaming to doing.
Right. Ben doesn't just say, make a plan. He actually gives you a framework for it. Like he breaks it down into manageable steps. And he even shares this example of someone who wanted to run a marathon, but had never run more than a mile before in their life.
I love that example.
Right. And so this person breaks down their training into these tiny, tiny steps, starting with just walking for 30 minutes a day.
Yeah, it's so smart because it shows how even the most daunting goal, if you break it down to these bite-sized pieces, it becomes so much more achievable.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then even with a great plan in place, we all have those moments of doubt, right? Where that little voice creeps in. It's like, can I really do this?
All the time.
And Ben doesn't shy away from addressing this. He actually talks about the importance of self-belief.
It's so important, but it can also feel like a little bit cheesy sometimes, Just believe in yourself. Okay, easier said than done.
I know. But Ben actually offers a really powerful reframe here. He says, self-belief isn't about being blindly optimistic. It's about acknowledging those doubts and then choosing to focus on your strengths and your past successes as fuel to keep going.
I love that. It's almost like, flipping the script. Instead of letting those doubts paralyze you, you use them as motivation.
Exactly. And it's something we can all practice, It's a muscle that gets stronger the more we use it.
So true. But even with self-belief, let's be real, there are always distractions. And Ben talks about the importance of staying focused on our goals, even when everything around us feels like it's pulling us in a million different directions.
It's like that classic saying, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Ugh, so true. So how do we stay focused? What does Ben say about that?
Well, he uses this really interesting analogy. He compares staying focused on our goals to a tightrope walker. Right. Imagine all the distractions happening below, but the tightrope walker's eyes are fixed on a point ahead. That's the kind of focus we need to cultivate if we want to reach our dreams.
That's such a vivid image. Okay, so we have to be like tightrope walkers. What else?
Well, he actually shares this story about a famous scientist who basically locked himself away in his lab for months to finish an experiment.
Wow, really?
Yeah, he ignored social invitations, even requests from colleagues, everything. He was that dedicated to his goal.
That's incredible. And I think it really highlights the point that staying focused often requires us to be intentional with our time and energy. We have to make choices about what we're saying yes to and what we're saying no to.
Definitely. Because at the end of the day, our time and energy are our most valuable resources. And if we want to achieve our dreams, we have to be willing to invest them wisely.
So true. So we've talked about setting clear goals, making a plan, believing in ourselves, and staying focused. What else does Ben cover in his blog post? We'll be right back after the break to dive into the rest of his amazing advice.
Can't wait. Welcome back to Aspire and Act. We're continuing our deep dive into Ben's blog, Dreams Come True, what it takes to make them a reality. And we talked about setting those clear goals, creating a solid plan, believing in yourself, staying laser focused, even when all the craziness of life is happening around us. But then there's this crucial next step that Ben talks about.
Yeah, taking action. It's like, okay, we've got the vision, we've got the plan, we even believe we can do it. But then there's this, like, gap between thinking about it and actually doing it.
Oh, totally. And I think a lot of times what holds people back from taking action is fear, right? Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of putting yourself out there and, maybe things not working out the way you hoped.
It's so real. But what's cool is Ben actually offers this really practical tip. He talks about identifying the smallest possible action you can take, like right now, to move towards your goal.
It doesn't have to be this huge, overwhelming thing.
Right. It can be something super tiny. And he gives this great example in the blog, like, let's say your dream is to write a book. Okay, so instead of getting totally overwhelmed by the thought of writing, like an entire manuscript, Ben suggests just committing to writing for 15 minutes every day.
It's all about building momentum.
Exactly. Through these consistent, even tiny actions.
And it's crazy how those small actions start to add up over time. You start to gain confidence, you learn as you go, and suddenly you're making real progress.
So like that snowball effect, right?
Totally. But even when we're taking action, even when we're making progress, Ben acknowledges that it's not always going to be smooth sailing. Like, we're going to encounter obstacles along the way.
Oh, absolutely. It's like life happens.
For sure. And setbacks are totally normal. They're not a sign of failure. They're just part of the process.
Yeah, they're like little detours on the road to our dreams. And I remember Ben even shared this quote from, I think it was a famous entrepreneur who said, "I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work."
I love that.
Right. It's such a great way to reframe those, so-called failures.
Totally. And what Ben suggests is, instead of letting those obstacles completely derail us, let's reframe them as opportunities for learning and growth. Like, okay, this didn't work out the way I planned. What can I learn from this? How can I adjust my approach and, keep moving forward?
Such a powerful mindset shift. So we're taking action, we're embracing those challenges, we're learning and growing along the way. What else does Ben talk about?
Well, he reminds us that it's also important to celebrate our wins, like even the small ones.
Oh, celebrating is so important. It's like we can get so caught up in the what's next,
Yeah,
that we forget to actually acknowledge how far we've come.
it's true. And Ben reminds us that celebrating our accomplishments, whether they're big or small, it helps us to stay motivated and it reinforces our belief in ourselves. And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, I did that.
Exactly. And he even gives some fun ideas for how to celebrate. Like, doesn't have to be this huge thing. It could be as simple as treating yourself to your favorite coffee, taking a relaxing bath, sharing your success with a friend who's cheering you on.
It's about recognizing your efforts and giving yourself credit for how far you've come.
Yeah, and I think that acknowledgement can be incredibly powerful. Like it gives us the energy to keep going, to keep chasing those dreams. So we've covered a lot of ground in this part. We've talked about taking action, viewing those obstacles as opportunities, and celebrating those wins along the way. What's next?
Well, in the final part of Ben's blog, he talks about something really powerful, something he calls dreaming big and achieving greatness.
Ooh, I love it. Let's dive in. All right, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Ben's blog post, Dreams Come True, what it takes to make them a reality. And I gotta say, I'm really excited to dig into this last section because it's all about dreaming big and achieving greatness.
It's like we've laid the groundwork, right? We've talked about the importance of clear goals, solid plans, self-belief, focus, action, and even celebrating those small wins along the way.
But now it's time to take it to the next level.
Exactly. It's like, okay, we've got all the tools. Now let's use them to build something truly amazing.
And I think what's so cool is that Ben doesn't shy away from the idea of greatness. He actually embraces it.
Right. He's not afraid to talk about achieving those big, audacious goals, the ones that might seem like kind of impossible at first glance.
Like he's giving us permission to dream without limits.
Totally. And he even reminds us that our dreams aren't just for us. They have the power to inspire others, to make a difference in the world, to create a ripple effect of positive change.
I love that. It's like our dreams are contagious.
Exactly. And he even shares this quote from, I think it was Nelson Mandela, who said, "It always seems impossible until it's done."
Such a powerful reminder that we're capable of so much more than we often give ourselves credit for.
Absolutely. And I think that brings us back to something we talked about earlier, that sense of self-belief. Like, if we truly believe in ourselves and our dreams, then anything is possible.
So true. And I think that's a great note to end on. Like, what dream will you dare to chase today? What step, no matter how small, can you take right now to move closer to that vision?
Ben's blog has given us this amazing roadmap, this toolkit for turning those dreams into reality. And I hope everyone listening feels inspired to take those insights and run with them.
Totally. And remember, we're here to support you on that journey. Be sure to check out more from Ben on our website, aspireandact.com, and our YouTube channel at Aspire and Act for even more guidance and motivation. And that's it for this episode of Aspire and Act. Keep aspiring, keep acting, and keep dreaming big. We'll be back next week with another empowering episode. Until then, keep reaching for those stars.